Pune is known for its lazy afternoons and siestas, and I suppose this first innings very much in sync with the reputation that beautiful city enjoys. Cricbuzz Live, it is Michael Vaughan and Dinesh Karthik without the blue glasses looks as fashionable. DK, you wide awake after that first innings, that sleepy first innings?
I mean, it could have easily put a couple of us to sleep, and probably we did. But the important part is Sri Lanka have got 241 when they should have probably got at least 20-30 more, which is what we were expecting. All of them got starts, and literally all. But none of them converted it into a 50, forget 100. And that sums it up for you. Fazal Farooqi was brilliant with the ball. Mujib, I thought, was a standout spinner. Rashid Khan, as expected. But most importantly, it was a day when Sri Lanka, you have to say, played very timid to what they did against England, and that's surprising.
Oh, that was boring. Let's be honest. That was.
Yeah.
I remember in '96, Sri Lanka were the transcenders of white ball cricket. You know, where they used to go out and smash the power play. The first team that ever did it. Sri Lanka have gone back in time before that because that's not the way to play white ball cricket. It might be enough. They might have thought, you know, in India last night defended 230, we'll do the same. But even if they defend that total, it's not the way to bat in white ball cricket.
Yep.
You have to get on the front foot. And I always believe in any sporting contest, it's about throwing the first punch. And you have to be brave enough to do that. Sri Lanka took 6 overs to hit their first boundary.
Yeah.
You know, that's not good enough in this white ball era.
Yes, I actually sat and counted while Michael Vaughan was sitting alongside planning what to eat for dinner. He'd like some dim sums is what he's told me. And while talking about dim sums, he used the word old-fashioned 6 times. Was it 6, 7?
Probably more than that. I mean, if the pitch is a sticky wicket and it's doing plenty, absolutely, you sometimes have to change the way that you play because of the pitch, but there wasn't a great deal of seam, there wasn't a great deal of swing, there was a hint of spin, but it's intent. You're looking at intent, you're looking at body language. You know, I just saw the Sri Lankans' body language. Nisanga had a little bit of a go, but you're just looking at those kind of periods of the first 50 overs of the game. You know, the start 41 for 1 after 10 overs. All right, the pitch is offering something for Mujib, but not a great deal. I didn't see one of the batters use the feet just to try and hit one over the top. The intent was lacking from Sri Lanka. And
look at the progression there. It's a telling picture of what Michael is saying. There has not been one phase where they've dominated. And if they've at least gone close to a run of ball, they've lost 2 and at times 3 wickets. I can understand the last 3 wickets. You're always going for runs. It's understandable. But scoring 40s in 3 phases, I mean, in today's day and age, and, you know, we could very well see Dew coming out. Here's a team which has chased 275 against a solid bowling attack. And it's wrong if I say that Sri Lanka are any better than Pakistan. And they're at par with form or probably slightly lesser in terms of skill. But, you know, to have that as a progression is doesn't paint a good picture for a team which is in form with its batters. That is the key part here. If they were all struggling like probably what England is, I understand, like what Michael said, it's a sticky wicket, you're not able to play shots, fair enough. But it looks a very decent wicket. And yes, they have good spinners, but to constantly be between 40 and 45 in 3 phases.
Yeah, well, it was a progression graphic where there was no progress. It was like going to a party, that batting card will tell you, it was like going to a party, having lots of starters but no main course. Everybody got starts. Take a look at that batting card. Everyone got their eye in, as they say, but not one converted those starts into 50s. Pathum Nissanka looked good, but then got out as well. Kusal Mendis 39 and 50, and just as he seemed to want to change gears, he got out as well, playing that slog sweep. Samara Vikrama, who was the find of the tournament, out LBW plumb in front by Mujib. Lanka scored only 22. Dhananjay De Silva bowled Rashid Khan through the gate. Angelo Matthews hit a couple of lusty blows, only 23. Thank God Tikshana was there to score 29. It would have looked even worse, Michael.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the starters, I mean, sometimes the starters are the best course. But you generally miss the main, but you always go to...
You know what I thought he was going to say? It's like going to a party with no booze. I thought he was going to say that, and he changed it very differently.
I'm a teetotaler.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't be going to that party. So. But you usually have a dessert, so you can have a starter and then you miss your main, but you always have a dessert, and that's what Sri Lanka were lacking.
And you have a look at the scorecard if they put it up, and the one thing that's very startling for me is there's not one batter who's having a strike rate more than 100.
It all comes down to intent. Then.
Well, the skipper was set. He kind of did the hard yards. He gave himself time, 39 from 50, and he fancied that short boundary. And that was a key moment because then Mujib got 2 in 2 overs, and that was just where you felt that Sri Lanka might just start to punch and start to progress a little bit quicker. And those 2 wickets by Mujib, who was magnificent, by the way. So any spinner that opens the ball and bowls 5 quickly, and I think it was 5 overs for 20, you've got to have a huge amount of skill, composure, calmness to be bowling to. And I know Sri Lanka didn't play in the right method, but you've still got to bowl very, very well to only go for 20 in the first 5 in this modern era.
And that's a brilliant point he's saying. And if Afghanistan go on to win this game, unless and until somebody scored a 125, 130 not out, the man of the match should be Mujibur Rahman, because he not only bowls with the new ball, he got their 2 best batters out. Their 2 most informed batters, back-to-back overs, and that probably broke their back and got them to score just the 240 that they've scored, or 240, whatever they've scored right now. So my point here is, he's been brilliant, and he's been doing it consistently, bowling with the new ball. And you can see, if you see the scorecard, the 3 best batters have got the 3 best starts, and all 3 haven't converted, and that's why, it's kind of painting a sorry picture, because if you're following them from the Asia Cup or in the last 6 months, you would know that the likes of Dhananjay De Silva, and before that it was Dasun Shanaka, who has been struggling for runs a little bit, and the story seemed to continue a little bit.
Yes, 2 for that man Mujib, and one man whose surname might need to be changed to Faruqi. Fazal Haq picking up 4 wickets in this spell. He doesn't have pace, but he seemed to bowl sort of well within himself, bowl sensibly, didn't he?
Yeah, I think he's quick enough. I think there's a little bit of hurry there when he gets it right. That Yorker towards the back end was a terrific delivery. Tried to get that Yorker to get his fifer. He deserved a fifer. Set the tone, got the first wicket, which is always to get your team off and running. Great variations over the wicket, round the wicket. When it was swinging slightly, he stayed over. Then he came around the wicket with the lack of swing, good slow balls, good variations. And Afghanistan were good in the field. But it's always easier, DK, isn't it, in the field. When a team's not going at you, you can just get a little bit closer. You can tighten the angles that little bit better. When a team's looking more aggressive and showing a bit more body language that they're coming at you, you kind of go a bit further on the back foot as a fielding unit. You're under a little bit more pressure. I didn't see a batting unit put the fielders under pressure. And then it's so much easier to get inside. We saw the run out at the end. We saw a great catch by Nabi on the boundary. Your fielding units are always a more collective, together unit when you're not being put under pressure by the batting unit. And that's what Afghanistan had today.
Faruqi looked switched on, was brought into the 11 today for Noor Ahmed, and he looked like he wanted to make a statement. He said, listen, don't count me out.
Good move by Trott and Hashmatullah to bring him in, considering you wanted to drop their best bowler from the last game. But you can see a tactical move that's paid off. 4 for 34 is something you'll take any day. And also sometimes tells you a story of what it means to take a break and come back. He's been playing consistently from the Asia Cup. They've always had him. Naveen Uluk has come, and now he's become the frontline fast bowler. But they've given a break the previous game tactically, and that has given the time probably mentally for him to refocus on what he needs to do well. And he's come back today and shown the world why he is so rated, not only for Afghanistan, but across the world in franchisee leagues. He plays in the IPL, he plays in the BBL, so good on him. I think he bowled really well. And the point that Michael said, he has enough pace to trouble the batters. He can swing the ball both ways. And most importantly, at the back end, he has a very, very good Yorker.
Yes, and for all those at work on a Monday who may not have watched the game, if you're just looking at the bowling card, you might wonder what happened to Rashid Khan in his 100th ODI. Picked up that 1 wicket, clean bowl that was. 10 overs, 50 for 1. Absolute peach of a delivery to get that wicket. But 10 overs, 50, how would you explain that performance?
Yeah, I thought he bowled nicely. I mean, he could have had a couple more. He just got enough movement either way. And I think when you see Rashid Khan just get that one, particularly going away from the right-hander, I always know he's got that one that's coming back into the pads to the right-handers. But I think the wicket that he got, it came after 2 deliveries that were going away. Yeah. And then he just got it a bit fuller and went through the gate. Beautiful spin bowling. Sometimes Rashid Khan, the opposition probably play him a little bit more sensibly because he is the trump card, he's the danger. So it doesn't surprise me when he gets the 1 for and the wickets fall at the other end, because they've probably done that much homework on Rashid Khan that they forgot to do the homework on a couple of the other bowlers. So it never surprised me, particularly in 50 over cricket, that he didn't get the 3 and 4 because I think teams are just playing him a little bit more sensibly.
TK, typically you take 5 and over from any bowler, 10 overs, 50. The problem is Rashid Khan is looked at very differently. He's judged by the yardstick he set for himself in T20 cricket. Is it unfair on Rashid?
I think 5 and over is very good. You got to understand, he bowls the tough overs. If you see Mujib bowls up front, he bowls at the back end. So back end, you tend to go for a lot more. I mean, if he's able to bowl 6 and 8, it's acceptable at the back end. And the first 5 overs, when he bowled between 11 and 40, he was very effective. He didn't go for too many. He went for 18 or 20, if I'm right. The second spell, he went for a little more, but then he picked up the wicket. So, he's one of those. He will pick up wickets when you go after him. So the first spell is always at times tougher for him to pick a wicket. But the second spell, more often than not, he will pick at the back end of the innings. When the batsmen look to go at him, that's when Rashid Khan is at his best.
There is a fair bit of interest around Afghanistan cricket, and they've beaten the world champions. They've beaten 2 champions, in fact. They beat Pakistan as well. So lots of questions coming in. Vedant Shah has a question for our experts. He sent in one with hashtag Ask Cricbuzz Live. Hey, DK and Michael, heard you guys talked about Afghanistan pipping Bangladesh, but do you think it's very close to be the most formidable Asian side behind India? I think he means after India. What lessons should Pakistan and Sri Lankan cricket take from Afghanistan?
Well, I just think it's a great story. They've been around for 20 years. It just shows you that the minnow nations, if I'm right in calling them a minnow nation, they're not anymore, but they were 20 years ago. The more opportunity they get, I think it was Ian Smith on commentary that was talking about Nabi. I think he's played 100. There's been 154 one-day games for Afghanistan. He's played 153.
Yeah.
And he's beaten 43 different countries.
Yep.
That's a lot of countries to
Name
beat.
5 of them. You rattle off all those names.
Papua New Guinea was definitely one. The Maldives, because it lit up my eyes thinking, what a good away trip the Maldives would be. And there was many. I think Botswana was another one as well. But, the story of Afghanistan is fantastic. And the skill levels of the players that they're producing is right up there, particularly in the spin department. And we're now seeing it with the seamers as well. The batters in this tournament have showed a lot more maturity than we've seen in the past. And you just kind of watch Afghanistan cricket and think how many younger players are getting inspired by what these guys are doing. So the next wave is in 4 years' time, 8 years' time. How many of those young players that have been inspired by this group of players are going to make Afghanistan even better than they are today? I'm excited to see where they can end up, Afghanistan.
Not sure how the Afghanistan Cricket Board works, DK, but as a cricket fraternity at the ICC level, at the ACC level as well, how does everyone who's part of the ecosystem ensure that this momentum that Afghanistan have is not lost post-World Cup?
For a start, obviously, I love them or include them in playing a lot more bilaterals. You can't play in their nation, understandably so, but, play them in a neutral venue like Dubai or, when time permits. Obviously, if you can fit them in your schedule, nothing like it. A lot of teams have their FTP planned, their Future Tours program planned a lot more. So if they can find a way to fit into play Test cricket, the odd test, so that they can better that. ODI cricket as well. T20s, they don't need so much, but that's the most lucrative form and the broadcasters love it, so you can understand why they play a lot more T20s. But to answer that question, I think, yes, Afghanistan are very good, but you have to say after India, definitely Pakistan have the most pedigree and the skill, followed by Sri Lanka in terms of the quality of players. They have a strong domestic structure, and we spoke about Bangladesh being a team which should have grown a lot more but haven't. Afghanistan has been the fastest and the most improved team without a doubt in this last decade. And there's no doubt in world cricket. And I think Netherlands are really pushing other teams now. So it's been a tournament where Afghanistan has shown why they should be played with or against in bilaterals. But if we get into a scenario like the rugby scenario where we play, many more fives and tri-nation tournaments, that's when Afghanistan will get a lot more exposure. And I think that is one way to look at it as well. If we can have more triangulars and quadrangulars in the near future.
The one lesson that perhaps Pakistan can learn is to not send out press releases in the middle of a World Cup. Afghanistan don't do that.
We can't really talk with the way England have played in terms of what they've done in the last few weeks, but Pakistan and World Cups, they either are absolutely magnificent or they're not so good, and there's a little bit of controversy with either board members, captains, or political kind of movements. It can't be an easy team to play for. It really can't, because there always seems to be a leak.
And it's getting worse. It's getting worse with WhatsApp chat leaks and things like that. It's just a bizarre story. Also, Afghanistan are now, starting to be a team that a lot of other countries are sort of taking a lot of interest in. There's so much intrigue around the side. They got great support in Delhi as well. When Afghanistan were in action at the Kotla, Rashid Khan is a popular figure. And so the more Afghani players that we see in action across leagues, they will find more fans across the world.
I think the cycle is very simple. If you have players like Rashid Khans, Babar Azams, Virat Kohli, the superstars, I think the young kids in that country tend to follow them, grow them. Like I saw Sachin Tendulkar and I took up the sport.
Yeah.
And I think a young boy today, a young boy or girl for that matter, will look at the likes of Rashid Khan, Babar Azams, Virat Kohli's, Rohit Sharma's, and then pick up the bat and want to play. You want these superstars to play the game for the right reason and leave a legacy, and that's what will happen with so many good players, not only playing leagues and getting better at their skills, but also being the brand ambassador, or rather the ambassadors for the game that these guys have been over a period of time, and that is always great to see. And you don't get many better brand ambassadors of the sport than Rashid Khan, just like what Michael said. Always wears a smile on his sleeve. You can see him, he fights like anybody else. Even if he's had a good or bad day, you'll never know it on the field. He gives it all, literally everything he's got, and there's no better way to play sport than that, I guess.
Yes, and hopefully if things back home get normalized, maybe that'll have a positive impact on their cricket as well. Can they win 3 World Cup games? They need 242 to register their 3rd World Cup win this time. 242, a lot rests on their openers. Michael, Rahmanullah Gurbaz, Ibrahim Zadran. 242 can be a tricky chase at times?
Well, it can be. I mean, chasing anything can be tricky if you don't go out with the right mindset.
Yeah.
That opening partnership's been great. The 2 victories that they've had a century stand between them on both occasions. I'm interested with Gurbaz because he's kept. How's his legs going to be? How's his body going to be? Because keeping wicket open, the batting, I have ultimate respect for anyone that does that, because it's the hardest job in the game.
Yeah.
I've got a keeper next to me, he'll tell you more than me, but to be out there in the heat, to be concentrated every single ball, and then suddenly you've got your pads on, you've got to face that first ball, that's not easy. But if you can get over the first 10 or 15 balls and he gets in, what Afghanistan have to do, if they get a player that's in, we've just spoken about the Sri Lankan players, 6 of them passing 20. If an Afghanistan player gets a 75 plus, you've got to say that they're going to chase down this target. So one individual's got to stick his hand up and say, I'm that player. I'm that player that you can all bat around. And I'm not saying bat around in an old-fashioned way. Get a 75 playing the right way, and I think Afghanistan will be fine.
What if Jonathan Trott decides to just go to these openers? This is whispers in their ears. 114 against England, 130 against Pakistan, opening partnership.
They love another 100-run start. That's the best way to go about this chase. But in case that doesn't happen, I'd be looking at a Rahmat Shah. He fits these kind of situations really well. And Hashmatullah Shahidi, he's a little slow to start, at times a little slow to the middle, but the calm head that he has can come through in these sort of games. So these are 2 key players, because I know that Gurbaz is going to be the superstar and play those big shots, and he should be doing that. Zadran is again a very, very good batter technically, and he'll have a role to play as well. But I'll be looking out for a Rahmat Shah, because he is one of those batters who feels like he starts slow, real slow, old school if I may say. But then he actually is able to accelerate and able to play that long innings. So, he'll have a big role to play.
My man Rashid Khan, he needs to get out there. Get out there in that middle and start playing a few helicopter shots.
Number 8 is a travesty.
Nah, get him up there. Get him up there. Get after the Sri Lankans.
Today, there could be one batter shot, because we don't know what the update on Ikram Ali Khel's injury is. The last we heard was that he's got a dislocated finger. Not sure if he'll bat. Is that going to make the top 4 play a bit defensively, a bit cautiously?
No, it shouldn't do. I mean, I just think that's why it really surprised me with Sri Lanka, that you've got to have a DNA of what you're about as a team. Against England, Sri Lanka came out and batted in a positive sense. They're only chasing one, but it was positive.
Yep.
That should be your DNA every single day, and I expect Afghanistan to play in the same way that they played against Pakistan, the same way that they came out the traps against England. If it's there to hit, you hit it. You've got to try and put the bowlers under pressure. If a bowler starts to bowl well, you've got to use your feet. You've got to get into the bowler's mind to try and make sure that the bowler knows that the batter's thinking about trying to attack.
Yeah.
If a batter just sits there in this era and does nothing, well, these bowlers are going to love that. So I would expect Afghanistan to play the natural way. If they lose 2 wickets early, well, you've got to kind of go, OK, let's assess the situation, maybe just play a little bit and try and get a partnership building. But the best way for me in this white ball era is to set a partnership up, is to go out there and strike
Chance,
early.
Yep. Chance for a young Dilshan Madhushanka as well to put his hand up and maybe try and stir the pot a little bit. They need wickets up front. Dilshan Madhushanka has picked up wickets. He's picked up a lot of big fishes in this World Cup so far. Take a look at that graphic. Warner, Smith, Labuschagne, Babar, Imam, Makram, Bavuma. If he can get them out, I'm sure he'll fancy his chances against this Afghani lineup.
his spell will be real key. You got to understand from the other end, there's a Dushmanta Chamira who hasn't played international cricket for some time. So the onus will be on Dilshan Madhushankar, who's been their best bowler in this World Cup so far, to give them early wickets. Make no mistake, in the first ball against England, he got Johnny Bairstow out, but they didn't go for the review, and the rest is history. But they still managed to win. But today is a day when he can trouble Cricbuzz because he is not great to start against left-arm medium pacers. So that's a skill that he can use to get the first couple of wickets up front. And it is a very, very important phase of play for Afghanistan, this first 10 overs. That's where they'll get going really fast or lose 2 or 3, and that can really put, have them in many ways trying to find out what they need to do in the next 30.
The one thing that's in Sri Lanka's favour is the last game they were excellent in the field. And they bowled a low in confidence England side out for not a lot. So in the back of that fielding unit, in the captain's mind is last week, just a few days ago, we actually restricted a decent batting lineup. And you have to say on paper, obviously England have got a better batting lineup than Afghanistan. So that's good thoughts for Sri Lanka to take out into the field, is that we fielded great, we were tight, we got a run out of Joe Root, everyone was kind of together in that fielding unit, and Sri Lanka have to go and take that mentality out to try and defend this lowest total.
Would Sri Lanka have gathered any intel from how Afghanistan have bowled?
Look, I think they did nothing too differently. It wasn't like they were using slower bouncers or slower cutters or nothing. They just, they just kept things tight, and that was more to do with how Sri Lanka batted than what they executed in terms of the balls. They weren't put under the pump so much. Only at the back end where they're doing things with intent when it required for the big shots. Other than that, they just went about it in the real old school methodical manner, and Afghanistan kept things tight. None of the bowlers did anything different. We saw Naveenullah come with the new ball, so did Fazal Al-Farooqi, they bowled Mujib. All of those guys did the usual things that they would. So basically what they've done is stick to what their strengths are, and that's what Sri Lanka should do as well.
What do you reckon your fellow Yorkshireman Chris Silver would say to this side at the halfway mark?
I'm not too sure what he said at the start, but it was boring. I would hope that he's taken them back to their performance in Bangalore in the field. Now, their performance in Bangalore with the bat didn't arrive today in Pune, but they have to arrive in the field in exactly the same mindset. You've got to fancy that they're going to need an early wicket or two just to try and get that kind of momentum going back towards Sri Lanka.
The points table could look very, very different at the end of this game. Both teams at 4 points, Sri Lanka at 5, Afghanistan at 7. However, if Afghanistan get the 6 points, they will inch even closer to that semi-final line just behind Australia. That's where Sri Lanka are right now. 2 points up for grabs, 242 to score. Who do our experts fancy in this game? Who has the upper hand at this stage, Michael?
I'm fancying Afghanistan. On the back of a chase against Pakistan, on the back of playing well against England. I don't think it's going to be easy, but I just think they might just get enough there.
I would say that if Sri Lanka pick a couple of wickets, it's Sri Lanka's game.
All right, quick prediction before we wrap up. A score at the 10 over mark.
47.
51.
22. Afghanistan are the more romantic story. So let's see if that happens. Maybe Sri
22
Lanka.
after 10 overs?
Yeah. 22 for 3 maybe.
Crikey.
Let's get some action going. It's been a boring first half.
Yeah.
Let's rev it up a little bit. You guys can share your predictions as well online. Make sure you send in your questions for DK and MV. We'll try and get them out on our post-game show. And we'll see you on Cricbuzz Combox after 15. Bye for now.